My name is Andrew Kushnir. My pronouns are he, him. I am a deeply proud Ukrainian Canadian, second generation. I am a deeply proud queer Canadian, first generation, I guess. I am a theater maker, I am a writer, and I live in Toronto. There is a story that I've been telling over and over, basically to anyone who will listen, over the last few days and weeks. And it is a story about my dear friends in Ukraine, who are LGBTQ plus activists. In 2019, my friends organized the very first Pride March in their city. And they called it 100 meters of pride. And this wasn't a metaphor or a euphemism. They could indeed only march 100 meters safely in their particular city. Now, the city authorities at the time had asked them if they'd consider maybe moving the event to the outskirts, somewhere a little bit more off the beaten path. And there was a reason for that request. There is a history of right-wing groups, hooligans, counter-protesters descending on Pride events in Ukraine. But my friends said no. No. They wanted to have their march in the city center. And so they gathered on the day, and they were joined by 78 others. There were about 80 of them in total, friends, allies, and they were surrounded by easily double that number of police in a single row around them. And these police were there to protect them from the hooligans, from the right-wing groups, from the counter-protesters. And within that circle, my friends marched 100 meters. Now, I share that story for a number of reasons. Firstly, it does convey the extent to which the LGBTQ plus movement in Ukraine, the dignity movement, the rights movement, is somewhat nascent. It is early days. I must say, over the 10 years of being friends with these activists, massive strides, more than 100 meters have been conquered. But it is still early days. And this demonstrates the extent to which these activists are really envisioning the future of their country, one in which freedoms and democracy can thrive, can include more people, can hold more people. They are visionaries. But I also like this story because it highlights the extent to which LGBTQ plus people in Ukraine are deeply courageous. They are a brave people. And so it doesn't surprise me in the least that they now find themselves in the armed forces, in the territorial defense. They are leading humanitarian efforts on the ground. They are providing food, supplies, safe passage to those in their communities and beyond their communities. But they are marginalized. They are on the outside. And for that reason, I want to bring them to your attention, and I want to invite you to support them. Their vulnerabilities are specific. War is this sweeping horror, this sweeping tragedy, but within it, there are these very, very specific lives, specific circumstances, and specific struggles. Among them is the fact that men between 18 and 60 years of age are not to leave the country. And so, of course, this encapsulates a number of gay and bi men who cannot flee to safety if they don't want to join the fight, and it is their prerogative not to join that fight. They have limited options. And I encourage you to support organizations that can help provide safe shelters for these men. But also there is the distinct challenge that trans women are facing in particular. If their passports or their identification is not corresponding to their gender identity, so if they have an M in their passport, that's creating great challenges for them at checkpoints within the country and the border. And so there are phenomenal organizations on the ground in Ukraine and outside of Ukraine who are doing their best to create corridors for trans women, for all LGBTQ plus people. Another thing to hold is if you're living with HIV, or if you are trans and undergoing any sort of hormone treatment, you are at great risk of being cut off from those medications. Great, great risk. As Russian forces encircle cities, those pathways to those drugs are being cut off. And there are even reports in Western Ukraine now that there are dwindling supplies. So we must do what we can to get those critical medications to those who need them. And then lastly, I want to highlight what it would mean for Russia to overtake Ukraine, what a Russian-backed Ukrainian government may look like, or what a Russian regime in Ukraine may look like. Russia has not been friendly to the LGBTQ plus community. Even beyond friendly, they've been hostile towards it. There is the 2013 the gay propaganda law. They've also most recently, as 2021, passed a law banning marriage equality. And this is a preemptive ban. It's not even that there was a gay marriage bill on the table. They are preemptively banning the possibility of marriage equality in Russia. And my friends have expressed to me a deep, deep fear that their names appear on what are called elimination lists. And US intelligence has corroborated that it is quite likely that there are these lists that contain the names of activists, of journalists, of LGBTQ plus leaders. Anybody who is envisioning a robust, free, and democratic Ukraine, those people are to be contained, detained, and silenced. And so I call on you, in the context of all of this current strife and potential strife, to find a way to support LGBTQ plus Ukrainians right now. Give to organizations that are doing the work on the ground, both within the country and outside of the country. Do what you can to keep their stories alive in your awareness and in your own storytelling in this information war we find ourselves in. Let's do what we can to support them, to equip them, to keep them safe. I've provided a number of organizations that you can give to, both to this fundraiser, and you can find it on my Instagram. I've got a link tree there. I encourage you to take a look. Please give, please help. Slava Ukraini.